The morning sun streamed through the blinds, casting long stripes across the hardwood floor of my tiny apartment. I sat at the edge of my bed, staring at the reflection in the full-length mirror propped against the wall. My hands ran nervously over the smooth fabric of the blouse I had chosen the night before, the one I hoped would help me feel different. More me, yet not fully exposed to the world. I'm Alex, 23, a graphic designer by day, a secret experimenter by night. Crossdressing had always been a quiet part of my life, a hidden thrill that I indulged in when the apartment was empty and the world outside felt far away. It wasn't something I did for attention, and it certainly wasn't something I could share openly. My girlfriend, Emma, didn't know. She had her own life, her own expectations of me, and I wasn't ready to risk complicating that. But today felt different. Today, I was heading to a salon, not just any salon, but the most talked-about exclusive spot in the city. Its reputation was legendary, a place where transformations weren't just about haircuts or styling. They were about uncovering a new identity. And in a reckless, impulsive moment, I had made an appointment. A single visit, I told myself. Nothing permanent, just curiosity. The apartment smelled faintly of coffee as I grabbed my bag, stuffing in my wallet, phone, and a few essentials. Emma was at work, probably buried in her spreadsheets, oblivious to the storm brewing in my chest. My heart pounded with a mix of excitement and dread. What if someone recognized me? What if I didn't like the change? The questions spun in my mind like a carousel. I couldn't stop. I left the apartment and stepped into the bustling streets. The city was alive with its usual rhythm, cars honking, people rushing, vendors calling out their wares. Yet, amidst the chaos, I felt an odd sense of isolation, as though I was the only one carrying the secret. My reflection in the shop windows caught my eye repeatedly, each glance reinforcing both my anticipation and my fear. The salon loomed ahead, a sleek, modern building with glass walls and a minimalist sign that simply read "Lately." I hesitated for a heartbeat outside the door. Could one visit really change me? The thought made me shiver, a blend of thrill and terror. I inhaled deeply and stepped inside. Inside, the salon was a different world. Soft, ambient music filled the air, mingling with the faint aroma of scented oils and hair products. The stylists moved with fluid precision, each client absorbed in their own reflection, their own transformation. And then I saw her, Maya, the lead stylist, whose reputation for radical makeovers preceded her. She looked up and smiled as I approached, her eyes sharp and assessing, as though she could see into the very core of me. "You're Alex, right?" she asked, voice smooth and confident. "I've been expecting you. Ready for something permanent." I swallowed hard. Permanent. The word echoed in my mind. I had come here for curiosity, maybe a thrill, but something in her tone made me pause. She wasn't just offering a haircut or styling. She was offering an identity shift, a doorway into a version of myself I had never dared to explore fully. I guess, I stammered, feeling my cheeks heat up. "I just want to see what it feels like." Maya's smile widened. "That's the spirit. Sit down, Alex. Let's find out who you really are." As I settled into the plush chair, the world outside seemed to blur. The noise of the city, the responsibilities, Emma's expectations, all of it faded. Here, I could be anyone, or perhaps finally, the person I had always been inside. Maya draped a sleek cape over my shoulders, her fingers brushing against my neck as she secured it. The touch sent an unexpected shiver down my spine. I caught my reflection in the mirror, really looked at myself for the first time in months. The boy staring back at me felt temporary, fragile. And in that moment, a strange clarity washed over me. Whatever happened today, there was no turning back. Not completely. Not without exploring this new version of me. Emma's voice, or rather, the thought of her, flickered in my mind. She didn't know. She couldn't know yet. But the thought of her finding out, of her reaction, made my stomach twist. Fear, excitement, shame, anticipation, they all tangled together into a knot I couldn't unravel. Maya began her work with a quiet confidence, her hands skilled and precise. She first worked on my hair, cutting and styling, coaxing it into shapes that framed my face in ways I had only dreamed of. Each snip of the scissors felt like a release, a shedding of my old self, yet also an unveiling of something hidden. Then came the makeup, the delicate brushes painting subtle contours, blushes, and highlights. My reflection began to shift, softened, refined, more delicate. The transformation was intoxicating. My heart raced, my breaths came faster, and with each stroke of the brush, I felt both more myself and more exposed. The thrill of seeing my reflection change, of watching my features align into something undeniably feminine, was exhilarating and terrifying at once. By the time the session ended, I barely recognized myself in the mirror. The person staring back was undeniably me, yet undeniably a girl who felt powerful, vulnerable, and completely transformed. Maya stepped back, arms crossed, observing with a satisfied nod. "You're ready," she said simply. I rose from the chair, feeling the weight of my new identity settle around me like a second skin. The world outside the salon suddenly seemed both daunting and electrifying. One visit, one choice. And now everything had shifted. As I stepped out into the city streets, heels clicking softly, I realized that this was no longer a mere experiment. Something permanent had awakened inside me. And as I glanced down at my reflection in a car window, I whispered to myself, both in fear and in wonder, I am a girl now, and there's no going back. The streets outside the salon seemed unnaturally loud, the honking horns and chatter of pedestrians blending into a chaotic backdrop to the whirlwind spinning inside me. Every step in my new heels made me painfully aware of the unfamiliar rhythm of my body. My reflection in store windows stopped me at every turn, and each glimpse confirmed the reality I was starting to accept. The girl in the mirror was me now, fragile, delicate, and undeniably feminine. I had intended this to be temporary, a thrill to satisfy my curiosity. But each careful adjustment of my blouse, each tilt of my head as I studied the contours of my new face, revealed a different truth. I liked this more than I had expected. At home, the apartment felt simultaneously familiar and strange. I couldn't sit without noticing how different my legs looked in the tight skirt, how the fabric clung to my new curves. Even simple tasks, pouring coffee, walking across the room, were a study in awareness, as though I had to relearn my own body. And then there was the dread, that ever-present shadow of Emma returning home early. I slipped behind the couch and pulled out my old laptop, pretending to work while my reflection caught my eye repeatedly in the darkened screen. The internal dialogue was relentless. If Emma sees me like this, she'll freak out. But maybe she won't. Maybe she'll see me differently. My heart twisted between fear and longing, uncertainty and exhilaration. Then came the call from Maya, the stylist. "Alex, darling, I hope you're enjoying your new self." Her voice purred through the phone. "Remember, this isn't just a haircut. It's a transformation. I'd love to see how you're adjusting." I hesitated, unsure whether to admit how fully this new persona had taken hold. It's amazing," I stammered, "but also overwhelming." Her laughter was soft, teasing, and somehow comforting. "Good. That's the sign you're doing it right. Embrace it. Every detail, every nuance, it's all part of you." The words emboldened me. I slipped further into this new identity, experimenting with the angles of my body, the tilt of my chin, the arch of my back. Even my voice began to change unconsciously, softer, higher, more melodic. I caught myself laughing at the reflection in the mirror, a sound that felt foreign and yet completely natural. Hours passed like minutes. I experimented with makeup I had never dared touch before, subtle shadows that emphasized my eyes, soft blush that highlighted my cheeks, lip color that made my lips fuller and irresistible. Each stroke of the brush was a revelation, an unveiling of desires I had never acknowledged even to myself. But the thrill of transformation came hand in hand with tension. Every knock at the door made my chest leap. I imagined Emma walking in unexpectedly. What would she say? Would she see me as a curiosity, a betrayal, or something else? I couldn't predict her reaction, and the uncertainty gnawed at me like a living thing. I tried to call her, just to hear her voice, but my phone lay abandoned as I lost myself in my reflection again. There was a strange freedom in being unobserved, in being able to explore this side of me without immediate judgment. Yet the thought of the outside world, the office, the streets, the people who knew me as Alex, loomed like a storm cloud on the horizon. Late in the afternoon, I decided to step outside for a short walk, testing my comfort in public. The city felt different under my gaze. People glanced at me, some curious, some indifferent, and I felt a thrill with each passing look. My confidence surged, yet with it came vulnerability, a strange, intense awareness that this new exterior could be shattered at any moment. Back at the apartment, I experimented further. I tried on different outfits, shoes, accessories, each one enhancing my new persona. My reflection became both my confidant and my judge, silently critiquing and praising in equal measure. I practiced expressions, angles, gestures, all with the obsessive care of someone stepping into a new life. But the suspense was unrelenting. Emma could walk in at any moment. The thought made my pulse race. I imagined her walking through the door. The shock, the confusion, the questions. Would she reject me? Would she embrace this new side of me? The answers were unknown, and that uncertainty was intoxicating and terrifying. Night fell, and the city lights filtered through the blinds, casting long shadows across the apartment. I perched on the edge of the sofa, heels crossed at the ankles, studying the duality in the mirror. This was Alex, yet undeniably her, the girl I had become. The thrill of transformation was now tinged with fear. What if this wasn't reversible? What if I didn't want it to be? In a restless moment, I noticed a small mishap. One of the heels had scuffed the floor, leaving a mark. A symbolic reminder of the delicate balance I was trying to maintain. One wrong step, one misjudged movement, and everything could unravel. I straightened, adjusted my skirt, and inhaled slowly, trying to center myself. It was then that the unexpected happened, a knock at the door. My heart nearly stopped. Who could it be at this hour? Emma? A neighbor? The suspense was suffocating. I froze, listening, praying it wasn't the moment that would reveal everything. The knock came again, louder this time. My mind raced. Should I hide? Should I answer? The thrill of being caught, combined with the fear of exposure, surged through me like electricity. My fingers fumbled with the doorknob, and I realized that my reflection, the mirror of my transformation, was now more than a fascination. It was a shield, a test, and a warning all at once. And then, as I finally gathered the courage to face whoever it was, I realized something terrifying and exhilarating. This transformation wasn't just temporary curiosity anymore. It had woven itself into the fabric of my being, challenging my identity, my relationship, and my understanding of myself. And the world outside, Emma, the city, everyone who knew me was waiting. The apartment door rattled, startling me so sharply that I almost lost my balance in my heels. My heart pounded violently against my ribs, echoing the rhythm of the storm inside my head. I had been so immersed in this new identity, so lost in the thrill of movement, makeup, and reflection, that I hadn't expected the outside world to intrude so suddenly. Alex? Are you there? Emma's voice called from the other side. The calmness in her tone was almost cruel. It made my stomach churn with a mix of dread and excitement. She had returned early. My pulse spiked. I realized in that instant that every careful movement, every quiet moment of self-discovery, was on the verge of exposure. I froze, clutching the hem of my skirt, unsure whether to answer or pretend the apartment was empty. My reflection in the mirror became a battlefield. One side, Alex, the familiar, masculine self. The other, her, the delicate, transformed version. I wasn't sure which one I wanted Emma to see, or if I even wanted to decide. The knocking grew more insistent. I tried to adjust my wig, my blouse, anything to hide the most obvious signs of transformation, but each movement felt clumsy and conspicuous. The high heels, a source of confidence moments ago, now felt like instruments of doom as I tiptoed toward the door. Before I could respond, the door creaked open slightly. Emma's silhouette appeared in the hallway, her expression unreadable. My chest tightened. "Alex, is that you?" she asked cautiously, stepping further inside. I swallowed hard, the thrill of being discovered mixing with fear. Hey," I stammered, voice higher than usual. I realized how feminine it sounded and froze. Emma's eyes widened, not in anger, but in surprise, maybe curiosity. She stepped closer, inspecting me from head to toe. What happened?" Her voice was a mix of shock and fascination, and I could see the gears turning in her mind. I wanted to retreat, but the new persona I had spent hours building refused to let me. My body moved instinctively, posture straight, head held high, heels clicking softly on the floor. Emma reached out, almost hesitantly, and touched my cheek. "You look different," she whispered. And that was it. The dam broke. Emotions surged. Fear, embarrassment, exhilaration. I laughed nervously, spinning slightly to hide my trembling hands. I just wanted to try something new," I said, my voice catching. "I didn't mean for it to become like this." Emma's eyes softened, but the tension in her gaze was unmistakable. She took a step back, and the moment hung between us, heavy with unspoken questions. Should I run? Hide? Confess everything? The uncertainty pressed down on me like a vice. Then, an unexpected interruption, a sudden knock at the apartment door. My stomach dropped. Emma glanced toward it, confused, and I realized with horror that it could be anyone, a neighbor, the building manager, or someone from work. The suspense was suffocating. I moved to intercept, but my heel caught on the rug. A sharp snap echoed through the room. Emma's eyes widened, and my face burned with shame. The symbolic moment hit me. My carefully constructed identity could shatter with one wrong step, one small mistake. I took a deep breath, trying to steady myself. "It's just someone at the door," I whispered. But Emma didn't move, and I could sense the unspoken question. "Who are you now?" The visitor arrived, an unexpected figure from my past, someone who knew me well before the transformation. Their eyes took in my form, lingering on every curve, every detail. A cold wave of fear washed over me. Would they accept this new self? Or would they expose me, shattering everything I had become? The room's tension escalated to a breaking point. Emma stood close, the visitor stared, and I was caught between the thrill of revelation and the terror of rejection. Every muscle in my body was tense, every breath a struggle. Then came the twist. The visitor smiled, a knowing, mischievous smile. "Well, this is a surprise," they said. "I didn't know Alex could look like her." The words were a shock, but oddly liberating. It was as if, in that moment, the world acknowledged the new me without judgment. Emma's expression softened further, a mixture of curiosity and tentative acceptance. I felt my confidence return, albeit shakily. The moment was symbolic. My identity, previously hidden, was now mirrored in the eyes of those around me. I was both vulnerable and empowered, exposed yet alive in a way I had never experienced. But the climax wasn't over. The reality of the world outside the apartment, the office, friends, society loomed large. Could I sustain this persona? Would I be forced back into the old Alex, or would this new self claim permanence? The stakes had never been higher. A final, symbolic moment. My wig slipped slightly, revealing a glimpse of my former self. I reached up instinctively, adjusting it while maintaining eye contact with Emma and the visitor. In that split second, the duality of my life, the old and new, Alex and her, was perfectly visible. The tension was unbearable, yet electrifying. I realized in that instant that this was more than a transformation. It was a test of identity, courage, and desire. And the choices I made in the next moments would define everything: who I was, who I could become, and what Emma would see me as forever. The room was thick with tension, the air vibrating with unspoken words. Emma stood near the door, her arms crossed, eyes wide yet calm, while the visitor lingered awkwardly, unsure how to react. I remained frozen in my heels, skirt swaying slightly, wig perfectly, or so I hoped, set in place. Every second stretched into eternity. I could feel my heart hammering, blood rushing in my ears. The thrill of being seen as her, the new me, was intoxicating, yet the fear of judgment or rejection made my legs feel like jelly. My reflection in the mirror caught my eye. Two versions of myself stared back, overlapping yet distinct. Alex, the familiar self, and her, the girl I had become. Emma finally spoke, her voice soft, almost teasing. You really went all out, didn't you? She paused, letting the weight of her words hang between us. I didn't know you could look like this. I swallowed hard, unsure whether relief or dread should come first. Before I could answer, the visitor shifted, their eyes darting toward the window. Is someone else coming? They asked, voice tinged with curiosity and unease. I glanced outside and froze. Across the street, a figure lingered, watching our apartment. The shadow of a new threat, someone who could expose me, loomed over my perfect transformation. My pulse spiked. I realized that the experiment, the thrill, and the newfound identity were all at risk. Emma's gaze followed mine. Who is that? She asked cautiously. My mind raced. I couldn't tell her everything. Not yet. Not until I understood if this new life could survive scrutiny. Suddenly, my heel clicked sharply against the floor. The sound seemed to echo through the apartment. I instinctively turned, ready to adjust, but the motion made my wig slip slightly, revealing a hint of Alex beneath. Panic flared. My dual identity was momentarily exposed. Emma stepped forward, reaching for my hand, but stopped midway. Her expression was unreadable. Alex or her? She whispered, a question loaded with implication. The visitor chuckled softly, shaking their head. Honestly, I don't know who I'm looking at anymore, they admitted. Their words, though casual, felt like a challenge. Could I convince them, or myself, that this new identity was real, permanent? The shadow outside grew larger, moving closer. The tension became unbearable. I wanted to run, to hide, to undo everything, but a strange sense of exhilaration coursed through me. This was it, the defining moment where fear and desire collided. Emma's voice cut through the tension. You know, this changes everything, she said slowly, eyes locked on mine. But I want to see where this goes if you can handle it. I felt a shiver run down my spine. Could I? The thought of fully embracing this new self, while facing unknown consequences, both terrified and thrilled me. My hand trembled as I adjusted my skirt and straightened my posture. The visitor cleared their throat. Well, whatever happens next, I'm staying to watch. Their words were casual, but the meaning was clear. Nothing was simple anymore. My secret, my thrill, my identity, all were in the hands of those who now knew part of the truth. And then a knock, sharp, insistent, sounded at the apartment door. My stomach dropped. Not Emma, not the visitor, someone else. Someone who might undo everything in an instant. My pulse raced as I looked at Emma and the visitor, eyes wide. I swallowed hard, feeling the weight of the moment. Everything I had become, my transformation, my courage, my thrill of discovery, was about to be tested. I took a deep breath, stepping slightly forward, trying to act confident. Let's see who it is, I whispered, voice trembling but daring. The camera of the mind would freeze here, a frozen frame of anticipation, uncertainty, and suspense. Who was at the door? Would my secret life survive exposure? Could I remain her forever, or would the world force Alex back to the shadows? The story paused on that cliffhanger, leaving everything unresolved.